Rain dripped from broken neon signs as Ethan pushed his delivery bike through the narrow alleys of the city. The streets were half empty at this late hour, glowing in blue and red light from cheap advertisements. Ethan was tired, his back sore from carrying boxes all day. He was only a delivery worker, just one of many in the crowded city. His job was simple: pick up food or packages, drop them off, and get a few credits. But that night something felt different. The address on his device led him deeper into an old district, one where tall buildings leaned over the road like giants watching him. The alley smelled of rust and damp trash. Ethan stopped outside a door with a broken keypad. He knocked once, then twice, calling out the name on the package, but no one answered. The silence of the alley pressed around him. He sighed and was about to leave the package when something caught his eye. Near the step, hidden in the shadows, lay a small object. It glowed faintly, as if it held light inside. Ethan crouched down, confused. It looked like a toy, shaped almost like a little soldier with strange armor, but the markings were not human. Tiny lines curved across its body, shining with a dim blue color. He picked it up carefully. The toy was heavier than he expected, and warm, as if alive. The glow brightened for a second, then dimmed, like it was breathing. Ethan turned it in his hands, whispering, "What are you?" The alley was still quiet, but Ethan suddenly felt watched. He looked up quickly. The rooftop seemed empty, yet he thought he saw a shadow move, too fast and too smooth for a bird. His skin crawled. He placed the package on the step, slipped the glowing toy into his jacket pocket, and pushed his bike forward. His instincts told him not to stay. As he drove through the city, neon lights blurred past him. He tried to shake off the feeling. Maybe it was just a kid's toy dropped by someone, a product from one of those alien shops in the market. Many alien species lived in the city, selling strange goods. But why did it glow like that? And why did it feel warm? His hand kept brushing against the pocket, as if afraid it would vanish. At a red light, Ethan looked around again. He thought he saw tall figures at the corner, standing too still. The light turned green and he sped away. He laughed nervously to himself. "You're losing it, Ethan. Just get home." By the time he reached his small apartment, the streets were almost empty. He parked his bike and climbed the stairs, the old metal groaning under his weight. Inside, his room was dark, with only a small lamp flickering on his table. He locked the door, still uneasy. The toy was glowing through his jacket pocket, faint but steady. He pulled it out and placed it on the table. In the quiet of his apartment, it seemed even stranger. It wasn't made of any metal he knew. Its surface shifted slightly when he touched it, like liquid frozen in shape. And then he noticed something else, tiny symbols along its side, moving like living letters. They weren't any language he had ever seen. Ethan leaned closer, his breath slow. He tapped one of the symbols with his finger. The toy shivered, and the glow pulsed brighter. For a moment, it felt like the whole room held its breath. Then the toy went still again. A cold shiver ran down Ethan's back. He stood up, pacing. He thought about throwing it away, leaving it outside, pretending he had never found it. But each time he looked at it, he couldn't move. The toy was small, harmless in size, but it pulled him in, demanding he keep it. He poured himself a glass of water, trying to clear his mind. That was when he heard a faint sound from outside. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. He froze, cup in hand. Someone was outside his door. He placed the cup down carefully and walked toward the peephole, but the hallway was empty. Only the sound remained, fading away. Ethan backed up, heart racing. He turned quickly toward the table. The toy was glowing stronger now, a steady blue light filling the room. For a second, he thought it was looking at him. He whispered again, "What are you?" In the distance, somewhere far above the city, a dark shape moved across the clouds. Unknown eyes had marked the toy's return to life. And Ethan, a simple delivery worker, had just carried it home. Ethan sat at the table staring at the glowing toy. His room was silent except for the faint buzz of the neon sign outside his window. The toy pulsed gently like a heartbeat, casting blue light across the walls. He reached out slowly, touched the surface again, and this time the markings spread open like cracks. Suddenly, a burst of light filled the room. Ethan jumped back, shielding his eyes. When the light faded, a strange hologram floated above the toy. Lines of stars appeared in the air, shifting into shapes of galaxies and unknown planets. Alien letters spun around him, glowing in patterns he could not read. Ethan gasped. He had seen holograms before, but nothing like this. The air itself felt alive, vibrating with soundless energy. And then came the voice. "Greetings, Ethan." The sound was soft, mechanical, yet it carried his name perfectly. Ethan froze. His heart pounded. "What? How do you know my name?" he whispered. The toy's eyes lit up, and the hologram swirled into the form of a small armored figure. Its head tilted as if studying him. "You are the current carrier," it said. "Identification confirmed." Ethan shook his head, fear rising in his chest. "I'm just a delivery worker. I don't know what you're talking about. You shouldn't even exist." The toy ignored his words. Instead, it shifted suddenly, breaking apart into thin metal strands. Before Ethan could react, the strands whipped forward and wrapped around his wrist. He cried out, stumbling back. The toy tightened, glowing brighter, until it formed a band around his arm like a living bracelet. "No!" Ethan pulled, twisted, even tried slamming it against the table. The band would not come off. It clung to his skin, pulsing with a rhythm that matched his own heartbeat. He panted heavily, staring at it in horror. "What did you do to me?" The holographic figure replied calmly. "Connection complete. You are bonded with the seal of Averon. You cannot remove it." Ethan stumbled back to the wall, sliding down to the floor. Seal of Averon? The words meant nothing to him, yet they sounded heavy, dangerous. He buried his face in his hands. This couldn't be real. He had only picked up a toy. A sudden noise shattered his thoughts. A knock, loud, heavy, echoed at his door. He froze. The knock came again, this time harder, rattling the thin frame. Ethan got to his feet quietly, tiptoeing to the peephole. What he saw made his blood run cold. Two tall figures stood outside. They weren't human. Their skin was dark gray, almost metallic, and their eyes glowed like hot coals. Each wore heavy black armor with weapons strapped to their sides. One of them raised a hand and pressed it against the door. The knock turned into a pounding. "Carrier," a voice growled from the other side. "Give us the artifact. Open the door." Ethan stumbled back from the peephole. His mind raced. They knew. Somehow, they already knew he had the toy. He whispered to himself, "This is insane. This can't be happening." The toy on his wrist glowed brighter, almost as if responding to the voice outside. Ethan shook his head, panic filling him. He looked around the small room. There was nowhere to hide, no escape. The pounding grew louder. Finally, the door frame began to crack. Ethan grabbed his jacket and ran to the window. He threw it open, cold night air rushing in. He climbed onto the rusted fire escape, heart hammering. As he pulled himself out, the door to his apartment burst open. He looked back for only a second. The armored aliens stepped inside, their glowing eyes scanning the room. One of them hissed, "The signal is here. Find him." Ethan clutched the railing and rushed down the fire escape as fast as his legs could carry him. The metal groaned beneath his weight, but he didn't stop. He reached the street below and sprinted into the shadows, the toy pulsing hotter against his wrist. Behind him, he heard the crash of metal as the aliens leapt onto the fire escape. Their heavy footsteps shook the structure, their voices sharp and cruel. "Do not let the human escape." Ethan darted through the alleys, lungs burning. He turned corner after corner, trying to lose them. His thoughts screamed at him. Why him? Why a simple delivery worker? He had no answers. All he knew was that the toy, the seal, had chosen him, and now deadly creatures were hunting him through the city. The device on his wrist glowed again, projecting a faint arrow in front of him, pointing through the dark alleys. Ethan stumbled, but followed it. He didn't know why he trusted it, but it felt like the only chance he had. As he ran, the sounds of pursuit echoed closer. The aliens were faster, stronger, their heavy breaths almost at his back. Ethan pushed harder, his legs aching, his chest on fire. The arrow guided him toward an abandoned subway tunnel, its gate half open. He slipped inside, just as one of the aliens' claws scraped the wall near his head. Sparks flew, and Ethan fell into the darkness of the tunnel. He lay there, gasping for air, clutching his wrist. The toy pulsed steadily, alive against his skin. His world had turned upside down in a single night. He had found what he thought was a toy. Now it was clear. It was something far more dangerous, and he was no longer just a delivery worker. He was the hunted. Ethan lay on the cold floor of the subway tunnel, his breath uneven and sharp. His chest rose and fell as he tried to gather strength. The toy on his wrist glowed faintly, its blue light flickering like a living pulse in the darkness. Drops of water fell from the tunnel ceiling, echoing softly, but behind those drops came heavier sounds. Footsteps. The aliens had followed him. Their armor clanked against the concrete, and their voices hissed in a language he could not understand. He scrambled to his feet and stumbled deeper into the tunnel. His hands brushed the damp walls as he ran, trying to stay quiet, but his shoes splashed against puddles that betrayed his position. The light from the device projected faint arrows in front of him, guiding his way like a path only he could see. He followed, terrified but desperate. The tunnel narrowed and sloped downward. Old train tracks ran across the ground, rusty and forgotten. Ethan could barely see ahead, but the glow from his wrist lit his way. Behind him, one of the aliens roared. The sound was like metal tearing apart, and it sent chills down his spine. "Carrier!" A voice echoed through the tunnel. "You cannot escape." Ethan's heart raced. His mind screamed for him to stop, to hide, but his legs carried him forward. He ducked under a broken sign, leapt over fallen debris, and squeezed through a narrow gap in the wall where bricks had collapsed. The arrows pointed him there, and he obeyed without thinking. Inside the narrow passage, Ethan crawled on his hands and knees. Dust filled his lungs, but it was better than facing the creatures behind him. He reached the other side and emerged into a wider chamber. Old subway cars rested there, abandoned long ago, their windows shattered, their bodies covered in graffiti. He slipped into one of the cars and crouched low. His chest rose and fell rapidly as he tried to quiet his breathing. The toy dimmed its light, as if understanding the need for silence. For a moment, Ethan thought he was safe. Then he heard the screech of metal. One of the aliens ripped open the collapsed gap with its claws and forced its massive body through. Its glowing eyes scanned the chamber. Another followed. Their heavy boots clanged against the tracks as they spread out. Ethan ducked lower, pressing himself against the cold floor of the subway car. He needed a plan. He needed anything. The toy on his wrist pulsed gently, and new symbols glowed along its surface. Ethan frowned, whispering, "What do you want me to do?" The toy responded. A faint blue shield projected from his wrist, wrapping around his body like a bubble of light. Ethan gasped, startled, but quickly realized what it meant: protection. He touched the shield, and it rippled under his fingers. The aliens moved closer, their voices low and angry. One of them turned suddenly, its glowing eyes fixing directly on the subway car where Ethan hid. It raised its weapon, a long staff tipped with energy blades, and thrust it forward. The car's metal wall exploded as the weapon pierced through. Ethan cried out and rolled away. The alien tore open the wall with its claws, stepping inside. Ethan raised his arm in panic. The shield burst to life, blocking the alien's next strike. Sparks flew as the blade hit the blue barrier. Ethan's ears rang from the impact, but the shield held. The alien growled, pressing harder, but could not break through. The second alien entered the car from the other side. Ethan was trapped. His heart pounded so loudly he could hear nothing else. He tried crawling backward, but the aliens closed in. One raised its claw to strike. The toy pulsed violently, and suddenly a wave of energy exploded outward. Ethan screamed as blue light filled the subway car, blasting both aliens off their feet. The creatures crashed against the walls, their armor sparking, their weapons clattering to the ground. The force rattled the car, shattering the remaining glass. Ethan sat on the floor, shaking, staring at his wrist. What did you just do?" he whispered. The toy's glow softened, as if calming him. The aliens groaned, struggling to stand. Ethan didn't wait. He scrambled out of the broken subway car and ran again, his legs trembling but moving faster than ever. The tunnel stretched on endlessly, but the arrows pointed him upward now, toward a faint light in the distance. He climbed a broken stairwell, gripping the railing with sweaty hands. His legs ached, but he forced himself to keep climbing. Behind him, the aliens roared in fury, but their voices grew fainter as he pulled himself higher. Finally, he emerged through a rusted door into the night air. Ethan collapsed against the wall outside, breathing hard, the cool wind hitting his sweat-covered face. He looked down at the toy on his wrist, still glowing faintly, still alive. It had saved him, but at what cost? He knew now that it was no toy. It was powerful, so powerful that creatures from beyond Earth were willing to kill for it. He stood unsteady and looked out at the city lights stretching before him. The world looked the same, but for him everything had changed. He whispered to himself, "Why me?" The toy pulsed once, almost like an answer. Somewhere far above, hidden in the night sky, other eyes saw that pulse. They knew the seal of Averon had awakened, and the human who carried it had survived. Ethan sat in the corner of a quiet rooftop, his body trembling from the chase. The cool night wind carried the hum of distant engines and the faint echo of sirens. His wrist still glowed, the strange device pulsing like it shared his heartbeat. He couldn't stop staring at it. Every time it flickered, he felt something deep inside him stir, as if the band was not just stuck to his skin, but had become a part of him. His mind raced. He thought about throwing it away, cutting it off, even burning it, but he knew none of that would work. He had seen how it bonded to him, alive like some kind of parasite. Yet it had also saved him, creating a shield and blasting those armored creatures across the subway. He should have been dead, but he wasn't. The device had chosen him, and that thought terrified him more than anything. The glow shifted, and suddenly the air above his wrist shimmered. Holographic light filled the rooftop once again. Stars appeared, spinning in patterns, forming lines that stretched across the sky. Ethan blinked, stunned, as an entire galaxy unfolded in front of him. A deep voice emerged, calm and steady. "You are now recognized as the bearer of the Seal of Averon." Ethan flinched. "The... what? I'm not bearing anything. I didn't ask for this." The hologram shifted. Images of massive alien ships appeared, black as night, their cannons glowing red. Planets burned beneath them. Alien soldiers marched through fire and smoke. Ethan's throat tightened as he watched worlds collapse into silence. The voice continued. "The galaxy prepares for war. Factions rise to claim power. The seal decides who may rule them all. You, human Ethan Cole, are its carrier." He stood quickly, shaking his head. No, you've got it wrong. I'm just a delivery guy. I don't rule anything. I don't even pay my rent on time." But the hologram ignored him. The stars twisted into the shape of a throne, tall and alien, with a figure seated upon it. The figure's face was hidden in shadows, but a single crown-shaped mark glowed above its head. The voice spoke again. "The seal once belonged to the High King of Averon. When he fell, the seal vanished. All believed it lost forever. Now it has awakened, and it has chosen you." Ethan backed away, heart pounding. He couldn't believe it. The toy, no, the seal, was some kind of royal symbol. A crown disguised as a simple object. Whoever carried it wasn't just special, they were a target. He could already imagine every alien warlord in the galaxy hunting him down, tearing apart worlds just to rip the seal off his wrist. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Why me? Out of everyone in the galaxy, why me?" The hologram shimmered. A brief image of Ethan appeared within the light, but he didn't look like himself. He was dressed in alien armor, glowing silver and blue, a weapon in one hand and the seal shining on his wrist. Crowds of alien soldiers knelt before him. The sight made Ethan's stomach twist. "No," he whispered, shaking his head violently. "That's not me. That's impossible." The hologram faded slowly, leaving only the pulsing glow of the seal. Ethan sank down onto the rooftop, pressing his hands against his face. He wanted this to be a dream. He wanted to wake up in his small room, pick up a delivery package, and go back to his boring life. But deep down, he knew he couldn't. A sudden sound snapped him out of his thoughts. High above the city, streaks of light shot across the sky. At first, Ethan thought they were shooting stars, but then he realized they were ships. Alien ships, entering Earth's orbit. Thiel pulsed in response, almost as if calling to them. Far away, deep in the void of space, alien leaders stood around holographic tables, staring at the sudden signal they had all been waiting for. The seal of Averon had awakened after centuries, and the most shocking truth spread across their networks within seconds. The carrier was not an alien king or a chosen warrior. It was a human. Ethan had no idea what storm he had unleashed. All he knew was that his life was no longer his own. He clenched his fist around the glowing band, trying to steady himself. His voice was small but firm. "I don't want this. But if I'm stuck with it, then I need to survive." The seal pulsed brighter, almost as if it understood him. Somewhere across the galaxy, war drums began to beat. And on that rooftop, a delivery worker stared at the stars, unaware that his face had already appeared in 1,000 alien broadcasts. The message was clear. The heir had been found, and his name was Ethan Cole. Ethan sat in the dim light of a corner diner. his hood pulled low, hands trembling as he gripped a cup of coffee. He had not slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw burning planets and armies kneeling before him. The seal on his wrist glowed faintly under his sleeve, never letting him forget that his life had changed. He thought about cutting his hand off just to get rid of it, but even that idea felt useless. The band felt too alive, too connected to him. He told himself he needed help. He was just one man, not a soldier, not a king. Maybe the authorities could protect him. Maybe scientists could figure out how to remove the thing. He tried to convince himself this was the smart move. But deep inside, fear gnawed at him. The armored creatures that chased him hadn't looked like random criminals. They had looked official, like hunters sent with orders. Still, Ethan needed someone else to handle this. He couldn't run forever. He pulled his hood tighter and left the diner. The city's central building stood tall against the skyline, government banners waving from its towers. Ethan walked fast, ignoring the strange looks he got from guards at the gate. Inside, the hallways smelled of steel and chemicals, polished too clean. He told the receptionist he needed to report alien activity. The woman rolled her eyes but pressed a button, sending him upstairs. Minutes later, Ethan sat in a bright office across from two men in suits. Their eyes were sharp, their smiles thin. He explained everything: the toy, the chase, the device that attached itself to him. He even rolled up his sleeve to show them the seal. For a long moment, neither man spoke. Their faces were pale. Finally, one leaned forward. "You're certain this bonded to you on its own?" "Yes," Ethan said. "I didn't ask for it. Look, I don't want this thing. Just get it off me, please." The two men exchanged glances. Their silence made Ethan's stomach twist. At last, one of them smiled faintly. "You did the right thing coming here. We'll take it from here." Ethan almost cried in relief. For the first time in days, he thought he was safe. They led him down long corridors, past heavy security doors, into an underground facility. The deeper they went, the colder the air grew. Finally, they reached a chamber lined with machines, its walls humming with energy. "Stand here," one ordered, pointing to a metal platform. Ethan obeyed, stepping nervously onto it. Robotic arms shifted from the ceiling, glowing with sharp tools. His throat tightened. "Wait," he said quickly. "What are you doing?" "Removing the artifact," the man said flatly. Ethan froze. Their voices had lost all kindness. He looked around, seeing soldiers line the walls, their weapons ready. His chest tightened with dread. "No, you're not helping me. You're taking it." The second man's eyes narrowed. "You're a human delivery worker. Nothing more. That seal doesn't belong to you. Hand it over, and maybe you live." Ethan's pulse hammered. He stepped back, shaking his head. "I can't hand it over. It doesn't come off." The soldiers moved closer. The robotic arms began to spark, reaching for his wrist. Ethan struggled, pulling, but the seal tightened around him, glowing brighter. The machines clamped down, trying to pry it free. Pain surged up his arm, and he screamed. The seal reacted violently. Light burst from it, blinding everyone in the chamber. The machines cracked and sparked. The soldiers stumbled back, shouting in panic. Ethan fell to his knees, clutching his burning wrist. The seal released a shockwave that blasted the walls, tearing panels apart. When the light cleared, Ethan was still alive. The seal had shielded him. Smoke filled the chamber. Sparks rained from broken machines. The two men stared in horror, realizing they couldn't control it. Before they could react further, the doors at the far end exploded inward. A figure stepped through the smoke, tall and fierce, with silver skin and eyes that glowed like stars. She moved fast, striking the guards with a blade that shimmered with energy. In seconds, half the soldiers were down. She looked at Ethan, her voice sharp but not unkind. "Come with me if you want to live." Ethan stared at her, stunned. Who are you?" She deflected a blast from a soldier's weapon and cut him down in one move. "My name is Lyra. I have been waiting for the seal's carrier." Before Ethan could answer, another squad of soldiers stormed into the chamber. Lyra grabbed Ethan's arm, pulling him behind her. "Move," she shouted. He stumbled, following her through the smoke as alarms wailed through the facility. They raced through steel corridors, guards chasing close behind. Lyra struck down anyone who blocked their path, her blade moving like liquid fire. Ethan kept running, barely able to breathe, the seal glowing hotter with every step. Finally, they burst through an emergency exit into the night air. The city stretched out below them, and a stolen craft waited on the rooftop. Lyra pushed him inside, then leapt into the pilot's seat. Engines roared to life, lifting them into the sky. Ethan slumped into the chair, his heart racing, his mind numb. He looked at Lyra, who flew with calm precision. "Why me?" he whispered, his voice breaking. Lyra glanced at him, her glowing eyes fierce. "Because the seal chose you, and now the galaxy will come for you." Ethan sat in silence, gripping the edge of the seat. His life as a delivery worker was gone forever. He had no idea what waited ahead, but he knew one thing. The moment he trusted the wrong people, he had almost lost everything. Now he had to trust someone else, a stranger who claimed to be his only chance to survive. The stolen craft cut across the night sky, leaving the burning city far behind. Ethan sat stiff in his seat, hands gripping the armrests, eyes wide as the lights below shrank into nothing but specks. His chest still heaved from the escape. He turned his gaze to Lyra, the alien woman who had saved him. Her silver skin reflected the cockpit lights, and her eyes glowed like tiny stars as she focused on the controls. "Where are we going?" Ethan asked, his voice raw. "A place where they can't find us easily," Lyra replied without looking at him. Her voice was firm, but not cold. "You need answers, and training. Without both, you'll die before the week is over." Ethan swallowed hard, looking at the seal on his wrist. It pulsed softly, almost like it agreed with her words. He wanted to scream at it, rip it off, but deep down he knew it was useless. The seal wasn't leaving him. Not now. Not ever. Hours passed in silence, the stars outside endless and sharp. Ethan stared at them, realizing how small he was compared to the galaxy. He was a man who once worried only about late deliveries and broken bikes. Now fleets of aliens were chasing him because of a thing on his wrist. He leaned back, shaking his head. "I don't get it. Why me? Why would this seal choose someone like me?" Lyra finally turned to him, her expression calm but serious. "The seal does not choose by blood or rank. It chooses by heart. Many warriors, many kings, many tyrants tried to claim it. All failed. It bonded to you because it saw something in you." Ethan gave a short, bitter laugh. "Yeah? Well, then the seal must be broken. I'm nobody." Her gaze lingered on him. "You survived. That already makes you more than nobody." Before he could reply, the craft dipped, entering the atmosphere of a desolate moon. Gray dust and jagged rocks stretched in every direction. They landed near the ruins of old stone towers, their shapes twisted and half buried by time. Lyra shut down the engine and stood. "Come," she ordered. Ethan followed reluctantly. The air was thin, cold, but breathable. The silence pressed against him, broken only by the crunch of their boots on the dust. Lyra led him into one of the towers. Inside, faint blue crystals glowed along the walls, casting long shadows. "This place was once a sanctuary of the Acheron," Lyra explained. "Here, the seal was studied, guarded, worshipped. Now it is ruins, but its power still lingers. You will learn here." Ethan raised his hands. "Learn what? I don't even know what I'm holding. All it's done so far is nearly get me killed." Lyra stopped in the center of the chamber and faced him. "The seal is more than a symbol. It is a weapon, a shield, a key. It connects to the energy of the universe. It responds to your will." Ethan frowned. "Responds to my will? What's that supposed to mean?" "Think of it as an extension of yourself," she said. "Your fear makes it shield you. Your desperation makes it strike. But if you focus, if you command it, it will do far more." She gestured for him to hold up his wrist. Hesitant, Ethan raised his arm. The seal pulsed faintly. Lyra stepped back. "Close your eyes. Imagine light forming around you. Imagine safety, protection. Let the seal feel it." Ethan thought it was ridiculous, but he tried. He shut his eyes, breathing slowly. He pictured a wall between himself and danger, a barrier that nothing could touch. To his shock, the seal glowed hotter. When he opened his eyes, a shimmering blue shield surrounded him, smooth and bright. His jaw dropped. I actually did it." Lyra gave a small nod. "Good. Now again. But this time, commanded as a blade." Ethan hesitated, then focused. He imagined a weapon in his hand, sharp and strong, something that could fight back. The seal responded instantly. The blue glow stretched from his wrist, forming into a curved blade of pure energy. The hum of its power filled the chamber. Ethan's heart pounded as he held it. He swung lightly, and the blade sliced a stone pillar in half. The cut was so clean, the top half slid down slowly before crashing to the floor. He stared at the glowing weapon in disbelief. This This is insane. Lyra stepped closer, her expression unreadable. This is only the beginning. With training, you can control more. The seal can guide ships, unlock vaults, even command armies. That is why the galaxy fears it. That is why they fear you. Ethan shook his head, lowering the blade until it dissolved back into light. I'm not a warrior. I can't lead armies. I can barely lead myself through a shift without messing up. Lyra's voice softened slightly. You don't have a choice anymore. The moment the seal chose you, you became part of something greater. You can run, but the war will still find you. Or you can stand, and the galaxy will follow. Before Ethan could answer, the seal flared violently, sending shockwaves through the room. Lyra's eyes widened. She rushed to the window, staring at the sky. Dozens of ships broke through the clouds above, their lights flashing like predators closing in. They've found us, she whispered. Ethan felt his stomach twist. His hands shook as he looked at the seal, glowing brighter than ever. He had just begun to understand its power, and already the enemy was here. Lyra turned to him, her blade igniting once more. Then this is your first true test, she said. Fight or die. Ethan stood frozen for a heartbeat, then clenched his fist. He didn't want this life, but it was his now. The seal pulsed like a drum, ready for battle. And Ethan knew there was no turning back. The ground trembled as alien ships descended through the gray clouds, their engines roaring like thunder. Dust rose in thick waves, covering the ruins of the ancient towers. Ethan stood in the middle of the chamber, his chest tight, his legs heavy, the seal on his wrist glowing hotter than ever. He felt like a small figure trapped under the shadow of giants. Lyra stood beside him, her glowing blade in hand, her silver eyes sharp and calm. They will come in waves, she said quietly. Do not hesitate. The seal responds to certainty. Ethan swallowed hard, his mouth dry. I'm not ready for this. Lyra didn't look at him. No one ever is. The first squad of armored aliens landed with a crash, their boots breaking the stone floor. Tall, gray-skinned, eyes glowing like fire, their weapons hummed with deadly energy. They raised their staffs, and the leader pointed straight at Ethan. Carrier, the alien hissed. You will kneel, now. Ethan's breath caught. Every instinct screamed for him to run, but Lyra stepped forward, her blade humming. He kneels to no one, she said. The aliens roared and charged. Ethan panicked, raising his wrist without thinking. The seal flared to life, creating a blue shield just in time. Energy blasts struck it, sparking against the barrier. The force knocked him back a step, but the shield held. Lyra leapt into the fray, her blade cutting through armor, moving like fire through smoke. Ethan watched in awe and fear, his heart racing. One alien broke past her and lunged at him. Ethan screamed and thrust his wrist forward. The seal responded instantly, forming a blade of blue light in his hand. He swung wildly, and to his shock, the alien's weapon shattered. The blade cut across its chest, sending it crashing to the floor. Ethan stared at his glowing weapon, breathing hard. He had actually fought back. More aliens poured into the chamber, their voices a mix of rage and fear. They attacked in groups, trying to overwhelm. Ethan's arms burned as he blocked and swung, the seal reacting faster than his mind. Every time he thought he would fall, the seal guided his movements, as if whispering what to do. The blade hummed, slicing through weapons, armor, stone. The sound of battle echoed through the ruins like a storm. Lyra fought at his side, fast and merciless. But even with the seal's power, Ethan struggled. Sweat dripped down his face, his muscles screaming. There were too many. The enemy's ships hovered above, sending more soldiers down. Then something changed. The seal pulsed brighter, stronger, and Ethan felt something deep inside awaken. His fear twisted into anger, his weakness turned into fire. Suddenly, he was no longer just reacting, he was moving with purpose. His blade struck true, his shield bent around him like a second skin. He shouted, his voice echoing across the chamber. The aliens faltered. Some even stepped back, their glowing eyes narrowing in unease. For the first time, they saw not a frightened delivery worker, but something else, something greater. Ethan's strikes grew sharper, his movements faster. The seal poured power into him, making him feel like he could tear through mountains. He cut down one enemy, then another, until the ground was littered with broken weapons and groaning soldiers. Lyra glanced at him, her expression unreadable, but there was a flicker of respect in her eyes. Suddenly, a loud horn echoed from above. The largest ship lowered, its belly opening. A massive figure dropped from the sky, landing with a quake. The ground cracked beneath its weight. This alien was taller than the rest, clad in black armor lined with glowing red veins. Its weapon was a colossal axe, humming with energy. The others bowed as it stepped forward. The giant's voice boomed. "Human, you carry what is not yours. I am Commander Venos, rightful heir to the seal. Hand it over, or your death will be long." Ethan's legs nearly buckled. The giant was unlike anything he had ever seen, an executioner in living flesh. His heart pounded, and for a moment, fear nearly crushed him. But then he looked at the seal. It glowed brighter, hotter, as if daring him to rise. Ethan clenched his jaw and lifted his arm. "No, it chose me, and I'm not giving it to you." The commander roared, swinging the axe down. Ethan raised his blade, bracing for the impact. The clash shook the ruins, sparks and light exploding around them. The sheer force drove Ethan to his knees, but the seal pulsed, feeding him strength. He screamed and pushed back, the clash echoing like thunder. Lyra leapt forward to strike, but Ethan shouted, "No, this is mine!" His voice carried across the battlefield. The seal burst with light, spreading across his body. Blue armor formed over his chest, his arms, his legs, until he stood glowing like a warrior from another age. His blade grew longer, sharper, burning with fire. The aliens gasped, voices trembling. Ethan pushed with all his strength, forcing the giant's axe back. Then he struck, his blade cutting through the commander's armor. The giant roared in pain and fell to the ground, defeated. Silence filled the ruins. Billions of light years away, alien leaders watching the seal's signal gasped in disbelief. The human had not only survived, he had defeated a commander. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. A new heir had risen. Ethan stood in the ruins, chest heaving, his glowing armor fading slowly. He looked at the fallen commander, then at the terrified soldiers around him. His voice was steady, though his hands still shook. "Humans are not weak," he said firmly. "We are here, and we will fight." The words carried across the battlefield, across the galaxy, through every broadcast that had locked onto the seal's light. Ethan Cole, once a simple delivery worker, had just become a symbol that would shake the stars.